Hi, I'm Dan Cortopassi. Today I'm reviewing an HO scale C44-9W locomotive from Scale Trains. My model is detailed and decorated for Southern Pacific. Scale Trains offers the rivet counter -9s in two versions. The DCC Ready version is $179.99. I got my DCC and Sound Equip model for $269.99 direct from Scale Trains. We'll start the engine at 100 possible points. The model is packed in a sturdy cardboard box. Opening the box reveals an owner's manual with DCC and other information. Soft foam surrounds a two-piece plastic cradle that holds the model. Extra rotating end caps for the trucks are packed in a baggie inside the cradle. Flexible plastic on top of the model offers some additional protection against scratches. The handrails on the long hood have foam protectors. This is an excellent box that should do a good job protecting the model for storage and transport. SP's C44-9Ws were built in 1994. Most lasted into the UP era. I found a photo of the former SP 8149 still in service as Union Pacific 9613 in 2017. I was able to find several photos of SP 8149 from the 1990s, and the model is a very close match. The details look correct down to the latches and arrangement of the hood doors. GE-9s had at least two styles of truck side frames, and the model has the correct ones for SP units. The paint looks good too. The only discrepancy I found is that the road number on the engineer's side under the cab windows is a little too far back. It should be farther forward, with the one more or less directly under the front vertical edge of the rear window frame. This is minor enough that I don't think it warrants any points off. Modelers wanting to correct this issue could remove the original numbers and replace them with decals. The fireman's side number is in the correct location. The paint on the model is opaque. It's just thick enough that it barely starts to soften the panel lines, latches, and other small molded-on details on the shell. I don't think the effect is objectionable and would be even less noticeable with some weathering. The markings are crisp and most of the tiny stencils on the shell are legible with magnification. The only voids are at panel seams where there would be a gap in the markings on the real thing too. On the step edges, the white paint looks a little uneven in some places, though it's such a small detail that I don't think most people would find it objectionable. The handrails are made of a flexible plastic that should stand up to modest handling. The stanchions are mostly straight up and down on my model when viewed from the side. One of the things that sets the Scale Trains model apart from other -9 models I've seen is the grille detail. In the radiator area, the grills are see-through and there's a fan housing inside. The trucks have brake lines in good detail. In front, the engine has freestanding wire grab irons, separately applied windshield wipers, and nicely done sand filler hatches. The numbers in the number boards appear to be applied under or on the back of a layer of clear plastic glazing, making them look like numbers behind glass. Lower down, the Pilot features working ditch lights, an uncoupling lever, an MU cable, hoses, and a plow that appears to be accurate. The cab side windows do not appear to be openable. They have a smoky tint that makes it harder to see through them. It's hard to see, but inside the cab has a complete interior. The cab has photo-etched sunshades, wind deflectors, and mirrors. In back, the model has more freestanding wire grab irons and the same Pilot details as the front minus the plow. The AC unit on the cab has a photo-etched grille. On top, the general arrangement of the antennas on the cab roof looks correct for the SP units as built. The clean lines are a contrast to many of today's units, which have complex PTC arrays. The horn casting is nicely done. I like how the exhaust stack has depth. The hole in it goes down into the model, making it look more realistic than the exhausts on some other GE models that I've seen. The radiator grills are a standout feature, with photo-etched parts that give them some real depth. Underneath the sill, there's all the detail that most modelers could want, including airlines, traction motor cables, fuel fillers, and more. All of the axles are powered and all the wheels pick up current. The model has Scale Trains knuckle couplers on both ends. Looking at the horizontal center line, the front coupler is slightly high compared to the KD height gauge. I realize this is a close one, but it's far enough off that I want to fix it, so I'm taking 5 points. The rear coupler is close enough to call it good. All the wheels are in gauge according to the NMRA standards gauge. There is no body wobble. The model weighs 22.8 ounces. Peak drawbar pull topped out at 4.4 ounces on my force gauge. An average HO scale diesel usually pulls around 2.5 ounces, so this is a powerful engine. I'm running the locomotive on DCC. The engine has an ESU LokSound Series 5 DCC and sound decoder. I haven't changed any of the default decoder settings. Like a lot of DCC decoders, the address is set to 3 by default. F8 toggles the sound on and off, and also turns on the number boards and step lights. Unlike the Scale Trains Norfolk Southern -9 I reviewed last year, this model does not appear to have ground lights. F0 turns on the headlight, which is directional. The forward headlight is on when the locomotive is set to move forward. The rear headlight comes on in reverse. F6 turns on the ditch lights. These are also directional. F12 dims the headlight and turns off the ditch lights. F2 sounds the horn. The length of the toot depends on how long the F2 key is pressed. F2 also makes the ditch lights flash alternately, which is incorrect for Southern Pacific. This can be fixed by reprogramming the decoder. F1 rings the bell. The model has an ESU power pack that will keep it running for a few seconds if it loses track power. F10 activates the brake function. The locomotive will decelerate according to the momentum settings programmed into the decoder and stop. Pressing F10 again releases the brake and the locomotive will start moving again. F4 puts the engine in dynamic brake mode. F9 activates the drive hold feature. This can be used to simulate a heavy train starting on a grade or a locomotive that is coasting. The locomotive runs very smoothly. With the sound off, it's pretty quiet. I want to fix the ditch light logic and change the couplers on this engine. I'll tackle the ditch lights first. If you have a Loc programmer, you can download the factory sound file from the LocSound website. There are two versions of the sounds. The hi-fi file for the Scale Trains SP unit says 97492.5. You can fix the ditch lights without the sound file, but I like to keep sound files on hand for each of my locomotives. That way it's easy to restore the locomotive setting if the decoder has a glitch at some point in the future. I used the Loc Programmer software to change the decoder to use a long address, then set the address to 8149. Next, I went to the Function Outputs tab and changed each ditch light to headlight fade in out. If you don't have a Loc programmer, you could also do this by programming the individual CVs with your DCC system. You can download manuals for ESU decoders for free from the LocSound website. Now the ditch lights don't flash when the horn blows. Much better for SP. If you want to take the model apart, first remove the couplers on both ends. Now you can remove the shell. The speaker enclosure is in the rear. The decoder is in the middle. It's connected to the factory light board with a 21-pin plug. If you have the DCC ready version of this model, this is where you'd install the decoder. The wiring between the shell and the chassis is accomplished with some clever contacts, eliminating wires between the two and making it easier to take the shell off. While I have it apart, I'm going to change over to KD158 whisker couplers. Since I'm using whisker couplers, I can remove the factory coupler springs. The KDs drop right into the factory draft gear boxes. Both of the new couplers ended up slightly low. I filed some material from the tops of the draft gear boxes to fix them. Let's see what we've got. The front coupler was slightly high, so I took 5 points in the standards and operation category. That leaves us with 95 out of 100 possible points, which would be an A on our report card. This is a really nice model and it deserves a green signal. I think Scale Trains did an outstanding job on this model. I'm looking forward to running it on my Donner Pass layout in the future. I'm sure other SP modelers would like it too. Thanks for watching.